Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. I'm getting an update from Labrador Gold discussing the now completed sale of the Kingsway Project, and even more importantly, what the company's strategy is moving forward with the shares that it now holds in Newfound Gold, and what sort of exploration, what sort of projects the company is looking for. I'm chatting with Roger Moss, President and CEO of Labrador Gold. Labrador Gold is traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol LAB and on the OTCQX under the symbol NKOSF, as well as the Frankfurt Exchange 2N6. Roger, let's talk about at least the sale of the Kingsway Project. You and I discussed it back in April when the news was announced, July 9th. Now you have announced that the sale has closed. Just remind everybody the terms of that deal, the overall closing price of that Kingsway project, please.
Yeah, sure, Corey, and it's good to be back again. It's been a while, but as you said, we've managed to close that sale of the Kingsway project. So yeah, I mean, the deal was pretty simple. We agreed to sell Kingsway for shares of Newfound Gold, and the price of those shares was always going to be done the day before closing. And so, as you mentioned, that was July 9th. So the price at the close on July 8th was $3.80, which meant that we got just over 5.2 million shares of Newfound Gold. And that's how that all came together. And that's where we are today. We have 5.2 million shares, and nicely, those shares have moved up a little bit in value since the close.
Okay, these shares, they are subject to a 4-month hold, but the big question is, what are you going to do with these holdings? Are you planning on monetizing them or a portion of them? What do you do with these shares?
To be honest, we haven't really thought about that in any great detail. As you mentioned, we do have a 4-month hold period on them, so that'll take us through to November. Right now, those shares are worth 23.5 million at today's price, I believe. And so when you put that together with our $6.4 million cash in the bank, we're looking at almost $30 million of cash and cash equivalents. And I have to point out that our market cap is just 18 million. So we got a 40% discount there. Of course, I'm completely aware that not every company trades at or above its cash value, but I think a 40% discount is pretty significant. But to go back to your question as to what we do with it, I think we have a few months to figure that out, but I would expect that just like any investment, we would be following it along, and we'll make that decision as to hold or sell when the time comes.
Oh, it's probably pretty dependent too on what the company does moving forward in terms of potentially bringing in other assets to the project portfolio. You do hold the Hopedale project, but you also have that $6.4 million in cash. So what are the project plans moving forward here, Roger? Balancing out, you already hold Hopedale. Are you going to spend money there, or are you going to hold off and look for another asset?
Well, yeah, I think we do have the Hopedale project up in Labrador, and we've actually been working on that. Well, we've been working on it since 2017 and more intensely over the last few years. And during that time, we found 10 new mineral occurrences at Hopedale, 5 gold, 3 nickel, 1 copper, 1 zinc. So Hopedale is a great property. It's like it covers, I would guess, about 80% of the Florence Lake Greenstone Belt, which is an Archean Greenstone Belt. And as I'm sure your listeners know, those types of greenstone belts anywhere in the world are prolific hosts of gold mineralization, and they do also, in some cases, contain copper and nickel and zinc type mineralization. So it's a really good project. I like it a lot. There's more potential for discovery. We do have a 3-kilometer long anomalous gold trend in the northern part of the project. And so there's definitely more to be done there. But it's, in my mind, Hopedale is a great secondary project. We have brought it along over the last few years while we were drilling intensely at Kingsway. And that's probably going to be our focus going forward as well. We'll bring Hopedale along, perhaps to the point where we get a joint venture partner in to take it further. But I don't think we're going to go up to Hopedale and really do an intense drilling program. So at least not in the near future. And so our main focus right now is to, as you mentioned, look for another project. I think we're in an ideal opportunity with our cash in the bank to really capitalize on some of the stressed assets in the junior mining space. We know that juniors have had problems raising money in the last couple of years. Many of them are running short of money, and yet they have pretty decent projects that they're unable to advance because of lack of funding. So I think it's a really good opportunity for Lab to look at what's out there and perhaps pick up a really good project that we can take further.
So what sort of project would you be looking for? Would it be an early stage exploration project? Would it be one that's more advanced? What, at least in your eyes, is your target?
Yeah, I think the early stage exploration, it's something that I've done a lot of in my career. I find it fascinating to try and work things up from pretty much nothing, which is what we did at Kingsway. And I'm still very, very proud of what we accomplished at Kingsway. But having sold Kingsway after bringing it up that far up the line, I think what we're looking at now and really our best opportunity to create value going forward is not to go back to the grassroots, because it does take quite a while to get established and to start building up the project to the drill stage. What we're looking at is specifically a resource stage project that we can take on, increase the resource by drilling out, and then move it through the different phases of PEA and perhaps through all the way to feasibility. And I think that if we can do that, then we're going to be able to create some value.
Would it be gold focused, or would you look at other sorts of metals?
Yeah, I think our expertise is primarily in gold. I've done quite a bit of work in copper as well. So I wouldn't say that copper was out of the question. But I think my sweet spot right now is a plus 1 million ounce gold deposit with potential to expand in a good jurisdiction. And I think that with the gold price where it is, it's still pretty close to all-time highs, and many people much brighter than me expect it to go higher over the next few years. I think if we can acquire such a project and advance it over, say, the next 3 years, that could be pretty exciting.
Now, you mentioned good jurisdiction. Are you looking outside of Newfoundland and Labrador then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love Newfoundland and Labrador. It's a great province. I've been very happy working there for the last 7 years. And we only have good things to say about the way the government works there and what we've managed to achieve. But it's a pretty small space in terms of the kinds of things that we're looking at. So definitely we've expanded our search outside of Newfoundland and Labrador. Right now, it's still focused within Canada. We're comfortable in Canada. As I mentioned, I've worked elsewhere. But once you go outside Canada, there's a whole bunch of other things that you have to take into consideration, like setting up an in-country team, figuring out how the different mining laws work. And then you also got things like currency exchange issues, which is, it's not necessarily an issue, but for example, if you were to look at a project in the US versus Canada, your costs are probably going to be 30% higher just based on the exchange. So, and there are very good deposits in Canada. So it's a great jurisdiction, and I really don't see any reason to go elsewhere unless there is a project that is so compelling that you just can't turn it down.
Yeah, fair enough. Let the project dictate that. But Roger, how much of a rush are you in to bring in a project here? Because you have that $6.4 million in the bank. You have this 4-month hold on these shares that right now are worth over $23 million. Do you feel any urgency to get another project?
Yeah, I think the old cliche is time is money. One of the things is like we're in a window, and I think the window has been open for a while, but we never know when it's going to close, and that could be all of a sudden juniors getting funded again, gold price like goes up, and these or else other companies in similar situations to ours are also looking at these assets. So I wouldn't want to sit on my hands and not do anything. I think there is some urgency. Obviously, we're going to do a good search and proper due diligence, so we're not going to just jump at the first thing that comes out. But I would hope that by the end of the year, we would have a new project in Lab Gold that we can work with. And that obviously that sounds like a long time. It's still another six months. But when you factor in identifying the asset and then B, negotiating the transaction and then actually executing the transaction, depending on the scope of it, all those things take time. And I would be happy with having something done sooner, but I think realistically, by the end of the year, I think we should see an advanced stage project in Lab Gold.
All right, Roger, thanks for addressing these questions. There's not much more to talk about here other than please keep me up to date on when you do isolate that project or even a portfolio of projects that you want to bring into the company and what the decision is to do with that over $23 million worth of shares that you hold in Newfound, again, under that 4-month hold period. I'll post a link to the company website in the show notes. Please, everyone, email me any questions you have for Roger, and I will get him to address those. Roger, thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate this update.
Oh, you're quite welcome, Cory. It's great to chat, as always.